Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
Welcome to Monsters of the Madhouse, Chicago Sports Podcast. Good to see y'all tonight. How's it going? I'm Matt Cooper. We're talking everything Bears here on the Chicago Sports Podcast as we get ready here into the off season. So thank you guys so much. We already got a bear down already from Philip. How's it going, Philip? Oh, hold on here a second, Philip. I got to go over here. Oh, there we go. Bear down, man. It's good to see you in the chat room tonight. And to everybody else watching, as we're talking about Maxx Crosby. Should the Bears trade for Maxx Crosby? Can they get the max for Maxx Crosby? And I think we got Sean. Sean, are you there, Sean? No, we're having some technical difficulties trying to bring Sean in tonight. But either way, we're going to sit here and talk about a possible trade opportunity because you're going to start hearing a lot of these over the next couple of weeks, whether it's going to be trades, releases, whatever it is, as we get into the offseason. And I think this one's an interesting one, and we're going to set this all up. So you guys watching tonight, you can like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and our YouTube page. Check out all of our shows. We got shows running every day here on Monsters of the Madhouse. And before we talk about what you think you could get for Maxx Crosby and the situation that he's in right now, because it's a whole nother level there with the Raiders, I feel like it stems for a couple of things going on. And I think the Myles Garrett situation is something that we can point to and pinpoint to on why we're even bringing this up right now, because it's not very often when you go into an offseason and you have a guy like Myles Garrett, a generational pass rusher that we haven't seen in many, many years, have the opportunity to go to another team via trade. And I didn't think that would be possible. Is Sean back on as he's trying to get his audio levels here working here?
Hello?
I think we got you, Sean. Oh, look at that, man. Sean is in the house. Now, Sean, see, we can hear Sean, but he just can't hear me right now.
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Now I feel like we got one part of the process almost ready to go here. So Sean's almost getting there. So anyways, guys, so this is what it's leading up to. And I see you guys in the chat room. Thank you so much. And I would love to get your guys' opinion today as well. This Myles Garrett situation, I didn't think was even possible when he first came out and said and demanded that trade with the. And it looks like my mic just went mute. Okay. Are you guys hear me okay now? Okay. So here's what I think has happened so far, guys. I think this Myles Garrett situation has put a lot of this into effect right now because I didn't think this was going to happen a couple of weeks ago. And then Myles Garrett put that statement out and everything, and then went on Radio Row before the Super Bowl, is kind of putting his name out there. And he really put his name out there. And I think a couple things happen with that. I think A, you could definitely tell that can be a messy situation if he does not get traded. And B, I started thinking, I can't imagine some of his current teammates being very happy with that right now. So that can be a whole nother situation. So I give that probably, before it was like a 30%, maybe a 60% chance of happening now where the Browns could trade him. With that being said, I think this opens the door for other trades. And the one that we want to bring up today is Maxx Crosby. Could Maxx Crosby get you the max coming back to the Bears? Because we all know that we need a pass rusher on our team.
Can you hear me?
Sean, I can hear you, Sean. Can you hear me?
I can hear you finally. All right, we're back in the house. What's up, Monsters in the Madhouse?
Look at that, man. It's awesome, man. I was nervous for a second, man. I was like, wait a minute, why did my mic go mute? Now you were trying to fix everything in the back, and I'm like, all right, Sean's got this.
You want to know? I had in my internal settings, it had this website blocked for some reason. I don't know why, but it's fixed now. So let's get it up.
Yeah. So Sean, first of all, it's good to see you, man.
Nice to see you too, brother.
And the crazy thing is, I was bringing up the situation about Maxx Crosby. So I kind of started it with the Cleveland Browns situation with Myles Garrett, which I give like a 60% possibility of happening now after he opened his mouth last week. And I think he's pissed off teammates and all that. So now with this Maxx Crosby, there's a couple of things that go into effect here. A, he's got a brand new coach in Pete Carroll with the Raiders, okay? He still has a couple years left on his contract, about $54 million. And it depends what kind of direction that they're going to want to go in right now with Maxx Crosby. So, but before we get to that, Sean, what is your overall take on the defensive, the magnitude of the Myles Garrett, Maxx Crosby, that we could see these kind of defensive ends that we haven't seen in a very long time that could be moved in the offseason?
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I know that I'm going to be on the opposite side of this coin. I'm not really big on them coming to the Bears per se. We just watched a Super Bowl in which an entire defense was drafted and under rookie control for most of the time. Now, some of the proposed trades that we're going to talk about, I would say, yeah, let's jump on those. If we're not giving up a 1, we're not giving up a 2, because I just think right now where the Bears are, that capital is so gosh darn important, especially when you look around the league, when you look at the Chiefs, you look at the Eagles, these guys, what they're doing and what they did with their draft picks. Now, again, if we get into these trades and we're not giving up too much and we're acquiring that stud all day, every day. I mean, we know what Myles Garrett is, Hall of Famer, big-time football player, generational talent, would love him. And Maxx Crosby's a little bit below him, but I would definitely be very interested in that as well. But when it comes to draft capital, man, I'm a stingy guy.
I'm a stingy guy too. Well, here I'm going to go before we go into a couple of proposed trades here, Sean, and I'll get your opinion on both of them, and you let me know what you think. These are kind of what Max has done the last couple of years. And he's had some incredible years. 2022, 57 tackles. He had 15 sacks. Numbers were kind of similar in 2023 for the Las Vegas Raiders. 56 tackles, 15 sacks. Down a little bit last year, 35 and 8 sacks. Now, he had some injury issues last year as well. And he was on a really, really bad Vegas team. That team was one of the worst in the league. And sounds like there was some dissension there and some turmoil. So either way, it looked like he still had a pretty good year, even on a bad team.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, that is a guy that the Bears could absolutely use. To your point, though, too, it's like, what do you want to give up for that? So here are the couple of proposed trades that I kind of was thinking that you would have to put together for a guy like this.
Sure.
And it's based on the Raiders situation too, because they have a 73-year-old head coach. So they're going to go in one or two directions. They're going to either go in maybe a reset win now direction, or they're going to go in a complete rebuild. Even though I think they would have a hard time seeing, like, if you're hiring Pete Carroll to go into rebuild, but it could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
100%.
But those are the two situations you could have. So let's just say they can go into a reset mode, the Raiders. I think if you wanted to make this trade, you would have to give up one of your players, probably one of your defensive players, depending on what Dennis Allen wants when they go over the roster right now. I wouldn't give. I would kind of steer clear of the offense. I would go after either a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, who still has a couple years left on his deal as a linebacker, or a guy like DeMarcus Walker. Now, Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, is owed about 17. I think you clear up a lot of money if you traded a guy like that away.
You do. You would.
About $17 million. DeMarcus
Almost
Walker,
flipping the contracts.
Correct. Yeah. So what you would probably do is with DeMarcus Walker would be another guy that I was thinking of, because they're going to probably want ready now players who also is owed about $7 million. On top of that, you're probably going to need about a second-round pick. You're going to add about a second round and another pick with one of your proven players if the Raiders are going into a reset mode. So that is option number one, Sean. The other option I would have would be if they go into a complete rebuild. If the Raiders going into a complete rebuild, they're going to want nothing to do with any of those players on our team. I don't think they're not going to want DeMarcus Walker. They're not going to want Tremaine Edmonds. They're not going to want anybody on our offensive lines. They're going to want draft picks. Kind of like what they did with us with Khalil Mack. They're going to want the first. They're going to at least want one first-round draft pick, which I think, and I just gave you the stats of him. He's going to want one draft. He's going to want probably a first-round pick. You're going to throw a couple other picks in there as well, maybe a second round, maybe a future third round. It's all going to be about draft picks. So as you break those down, Sean, what scenarios do you like best? What scenarios do you think would be better? And is there anything that you would like to include in those packages?
I'll tell you, I would tell you this right now. If the Bears could pull off DeMarcus Walker and Braxton Jones and a third-round pick for Maxx Crosby, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that all day, every day. And to me, that's not giving up too much draft capital. It's not detrimental to your future. So yeah, that would definitely make me very, very interested if they could do that. But in your opinion, do you think that would be enough though? Do you think that the Raiders would take a third round and those two players?
Well, because there's a reason why. Go ahead, Sean.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, if you trade Braxton Jones and you do this, you automatically your draft gets shifted to you. Now you have to take a left tackle. I mean, that has to be your priority at 10. So, but what were you going to say, Matt?
Well, yeah. You bring up a good point about Braxton Jones. I don't trade Braxton Jones. I think you got to keep him. Just because as of right now, I'm not overly impressed with our free agent. I'm not impressed with the free agent market as far as tackles go. Depending who gets released over the cap casualties coming up.
Yeah,
But or the draft, or how you want to go in the draft. But I think that's somebody you might have to keep. And this is why I brought up Myles Garrett in the beginning, because I feel like if somebody like Myles Garrett does get traded, and I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, or if it doesn't, that's going to float the situation that something like this could happen. And what are the Raiders going to want in return? So let's say let's say, for example, the Browns do trade Myles Garrett and they get the world for this guy, which they should, because he's an unbelievable player. The Raiders can come back and say, well, wait a minute. If Myles Garrett is getting that back, we got one of the top 5 best pass rushers in the league too. Yeah. No, we want, okay, so we're going to do a reset. You give us Tremaine Edmonds. We want a 2nd-round pick. We want a 3rd-round pick and an additional maybe 5th-round pick of next year. I think they're going to actually want more if that happens.
I agree. I agree 100%. And that's where I start saying, pull back the reins, and I'm saying no. You know, we actually just did a show and we looked over, you know, exactly what the Eagles did, and I mean the Eagles. I mean, everyone knows they draft incredibly well. In the last 4 years, I think they've missed on like 2 damn picks. I mean,
they went to the Georgia roster, man.
Yeah, they took the whole Georgia roster, and you know what? That was kind of something that I was thinking. Like when you do this, if instead of adding an aging veteran who couldn't contribute for a couple of years, I think my main question is, if you make this trade for a Myles Garrett and or a Maxx Crosby, does this help you win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years? Because then you're getting into 33, 34, 35 years old with these guys, where their performance level is going to start to kind of dwindle down a little bit. You kind of noticed that with Khalil Mack's numbers last year. I mean, he's 35, I believe, and he kind of fell back a little bit last year. So I said this the other day. I said, I guess I'd really want to have to see the package in order to make a deal. And if we're talking about Tremaine Edmonds, a 2nd-round pick, and you're talking about a difference of $10 million in salary, I'm doing that too, 100%. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds came here with so much high expectation from Buffalo, and to me, he's kind of underachieved. And I don't know if that's due to coaching, you know, but I don't think he's been the same player he was in Buffalo coming here. So, and I don't want to knock him or slight him, because I still think he's a good player, and I think maybe these new coaches do get something more out of him. So,
well, Sean, I think his name is going to be brought up a lot here over the next couple of weeks. I think there's going to be a couple of ways they go with him. They're either going to keep him, they can cut him, because it doesn't look like they're going to lose a ton of money on him if they do that, or they can possibly trade him. I with you. I think you probably want somebody like him back for another year. But if you have an opportunity to get a guy like a Maxx Crosby, would you throw him in there with a trade? Now, with all of this being said, and I'm looking at the chats right now, it's like, for example, Montana Shy says there's no way the Raiders want players; they just want draft picks, which I kind of lead that way too.
Yeah,
Raiders are going to want the picks. Yeah, they're going to want the picks, because right now they don't have a quarterback, a wide receiver. The Raiders are a mess. Listen,
they got Brock Bowers. That's it.
Brock Bowers is unbelievable, man. The dude's unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, man. Jacoby Myers is a good, probably number 3 on a good team.
Yeah,
But other than that, you're right. You're right. Like, what do they have? So that's what I'm saying is it's so interesting to me that they hired Pete Carroll as their head coach, because they're in that division. They were so bad last year, and they have so much that they need to work on. Like, how many years is he going to be able to be around for this? And or is he literally going to coach till he's 80 years old? So I don't know what they're going to exactly be looking for if they do trade him. Now, with all of this being said, Sean, because I do think Max would be a good counterpiece to Montez Sweat, and he'd be a building block. But you brought up a good point when you talked about the Eagles here in the beginning, about their drafts and how you win a Super Bowl. Well, that's a perfect team on how you win a Super Bowl. You see the way they hit on their draft picks. Yeah. I have a hard time now trading draft picks. I just do in general. Just the way teams are winning every year. The Chiefs are another perfect example.
Yep.
With the players that they've drafted over the past couple of years. And with a team like us that only had 5 wins last year, I have a hard time saying, hey, we have the number 10th pick in the draft. Do you trade that? I don't think you do. That 2nd-round pick, I don't think you trade that. This looks like a pretty good draft where you can get some depth on the offensive line, the tight ends, running back, especially on the offensive side. A lot of stuff that we need. I don't know,
Yeah.
Sean. This is a tough one for me.
For me at 10, 'cause we just did a defensive right before I came on here. We were doing a defensive end draft show, and we went through the top 25 defensive ends in this draft. And after breaking down James Pierce, I'm sitting there because me personally, and I don't know how you feel, Matt. I haven't had a chance to talk to you. I'm not super enamored with any of the left tackles in this draft, and it almost to me seems like most of these left tackles, like Will Campbell and Banks, they're saying these guys are going to be a better fit at a guard. So it's almost to me like you got to keep Braxton Jones around for one more year and use him. I know, he has a problem with the bull rush and, his feet aren't the quickest. His hand placement isn't the best, but he's also not terrible,
I don't think so
So
either.
I would like to shore up some blue chip talent in this draft. We have the perfect, 10, 39, 41. Those three picks can help you reshape this thing. I think it's so critical. And even if you were to trade back a little bit, but if you're watching the Super Bowl and you're looking at the Eagles defensive line, the entire defensive line was drafted. The entire secondary was drafted. And I'm pretty sure their entire linebacking core was drafted as well. I think their entire defense came from drafts. And I think they only had 4 players on their offense via trade. And one of them was a luxury when they drafted Jordan Davis and they used another pick on A.J. Brown. So, it's very interesting with these new smart brains that are around Mr. Poles, because I really do have a lot of faith in a lot of these coaches. I haven't been on CSP for a little while, but home run hire after home run hire after home run hire. So I think that they can nail this draft with these guys knowing these coaches. I mean, I think it's the defensive line coach and the offensive line coach of 91 years of experience. These two guys know exactly what they're looking for and how they want to dominate football and how they can dominate football because they've coached all pros and made all pros out of players of lesser means. So to me, it's kind of, if we end up with the Maxx Crosby, I think that would be great. But my biggest question is, if we make this trade, what are we giving up? And do we win the Super Bowl in this window before he's at that age where he's not effective, I guess.
And here's another thing you got to keep in mind is if you do trade for a guy like Maxx Crosby, you're probably gonna have to give him a new contract at some point.
Yep.
I know he's got a couple of years left, but you normally when you make big trades like this, you're in for the long haul to have these type of players. And how much you going to pay him? How much is he going to be worth on the market, or how much do you project him to be worth? And another good point you brought, I think with Braxton Jones, I see him in some of these trade rumors as well. I say you keep him. I say you put some other players on the offensive line and build around that, and you keep him in here for next year for some depth because that offensive line was so bad last year. We don't know what that's going to be like next year.
Matt, really quick in the chat there, Donovan Jackson. I love Donovan Jackson, and I am a big fan of Josh Simmons. And Josh Simmons would have probably, if he didn't get hurt in week 7 against Oregon, he would probably be a top 5 pick in this draft. And if the Bears wanted to trade back, to 14, 15, and they feel like they can get Josh Simmons, coming off an ACL kind of makes you worried, a little bit, 360-pound guy on an ACL. But I love Josh Simmons a lot. So
he was on a lot of mock draft in the beginning of last season. Was on the to your point, he was on the top 5, top 10. But that's what it is. This draft's going to be a lot of depth in it, and it's going to be fun to talk about as we get closer here about the draft picks, about trades. And we got a couple weeks till free agency, and it's going to be fun as you guys keep track here on Chicago Sports Podcast. Thank you guys tonight, too, for chiming in and watching the show. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, and catch up with all the shows. We got more shows coming up as you start wrapping things up here. Sean, it's good to see you again, man. It's been a while since I've been able to see you on a show, man. I watch you guys all the time on your shows, so it's awesome to be back with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got the call, he was like, "Oh, it'll be you and Coop." I was like, "Oh, sweet, let's do this."
Yeah, man, we'll do some more, brother. We'll definitely do some more, man.
Absolutely, man. This is great. Got to get the band back together. We got to get Cleat back on and get the old band back together.
Get the old band back. Yeah, we'll get the old band back. So, well, thank you guys for watching tonight's Chicago Sports Podcast, and we'll talk to you soon. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night.